Guys, welcome back to another week of the tranquil under the sea calming embroidery pattern. This is page 4 for those that are following along with the sample stitch book. And for those that are just joining us for this one-off piece, welcome as well. I hope you enjoy your time with us. We will be working on our fishes today. So I'm going to try and get through these a little bit quickly so that we can get them all done in 1 week and look at doing our freestyle embroidery stuff next week. That's the plan, but we'll see how we go. I'm not going to rush it too much. Remember, for anyone who is new, if you're not sure how to do any of the stitches, there are in-depth videos and tutorials on the site, on the YouTube site, showing you exactly how to do each of these stitches. These are all stitches that we have, for those of us that have been doing the stitch sampler book, have already learnt and done panels of to put onto page 3 of the stitch sampler book. So now we're putting them together to form a little scene. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do today is work on the large fish. We'll start with the largest, the easiest. I've got some red wool thread. Again, these are my Dyed-A-Craft naturally dyed 100% merino wool threads. And this is our madder red. So I'm going to use that today. Again, if you've got other wool threads you want to use those, or as I've already suggested, maybe in previous videos, a pearl 5, something nice and thick. So I thought with our biggest fish here, this one here, we might do a full padded satin stitch. So I've decided I'm going to do 2 paddings underneath. I may even just do 1 on some parts of it, but 2 paddings underneath before we do the final satin stitch. We'll work on this area around here first, and then we'll look at what we're going to do for the rest. So, whoops, we'll get started. Again, I'd like to excuse my hands today. Not only are my nails a little bit blue, but now my whole hands are slightly blue. I did some indigo dyeing yesterday. I was trying to be good. I couldn't find my gloves, but I did try and use my utensils rather than dipping my hands fully in. But, you know, you've got to get your hands in there sometimes, so they are slightly blue. I do apologise for that. It can take up to a week for my hands to get back to normal, and I really didn't want to put this off for a week just because of that. So we've started with 2 small stitches there so that we can go over those, and that'll hold our thread in place. So if I'm doing 2 underneath layers and I want my top layer to go vertically, then I'll start vertically. I'm going to start in the middle like I normally do. It's a good place to start. And I want to leave enough space to do another layer before we hit the final line. Again, I need to apologise, I don't have a hoop this size on a stand. So normally my stuff's on a stand, but we're just going to have to make do. I hope you can still see everything. So we're going to do laid stitch for our first layer. So if you remember, we just go next to it. We're going to follow the same contour as the outside line, but doing it inside. So all we've done, you can see there, is go right next door. We don't want to be wasting our thread by going all the way around continuously. Maybe didn't get that quite as next to it as I wanted. again right next door. So you'll see that on the back there's just small stitches. These are from the starting, so don't worry about those. But these two small stitches, that's all we're leaving on the back, and doing a full round on the front. That's our laid stitch. Okay, so if you remember from our tutorials, we're going to fill this whole space, just trying to leave a thread space in between, a similar gap size all the way around between this padding layer and your final layer. I'm now going to just continue, and I'll do all along here up until, get the needle out of the way, that might help, up until this curve, and I'll do this way down to that curve, and I'll come back and very quickly show you the next layer. If you want to just go ahead and complete this all in your padded satin stitch, if you did your padded satin stitch, or you did the tutorial previously, then just go ahead and move ahead on the video, but I'll just quickly come back after I've done a full layer of doing these vertical laid stitches to show you the next layer. Okay, so I've done a layer of laid stitch. If you have a little look here at these corners here, I've just done some small laid stitches to help fill those in, but I've left a gap all the way around. So now we're going to do the same thing, but horizontally. If I figure out the best way to hold this for you. So, and this time we're going to come in just before the lines. So not on the lines, but just before. Again, doing laid stitch. Next to each other. Oops. And again, we'll follow those contours. Might actually, I'll get one more in there. All the way around and basically fill in the majority of the white space around the red. So this one will okay, so we will I'll finish both sides of that, come back and we'll do our final side, our final layer, not side. Okay, so I have finished the second layer there. It's looking nice and firm. So now we want to go on and do our satin stitch. We want to be doing it vertically coming through. Now I am going to do one thing different here than what I did in the tutorials, and that is I want to go through, when we finish this layer, I want to go through and add a different coloured stripe in the mix. So what I'm going to do as I do the satin stitch, so this time instead of going next to, we come back down, we go up, down, you know, from the bottom to the top, from the bottom to the top, instead of going bottom, bottom, top, top, bottom, bottom. Is that making sense? We're going all the way down through the bottom. Okay, so this time what I'm going to do is, just to make things a bit easier when I come through with my next thread, so we're working off the lines here. I'm going to do three stitches, and then I'm going to, for the next stitch, just leave a little gap. Now it's not a massive gap. It's just going to be another gap where I can come through and just fit a different colour in. Now working with the wool makes it a little bit easier in the fact that it, you know, there's plenty of give in the threads, so we don't have to be leaving a big gap. It'll snuggle and fit in no matter what size gap. Even if you didn't do much of a gap, we'd be able to snug it in and snuggle it in comfortably. Okay, so again, I've done another 3 stitches, so again I'll leave a little gap. I'm running out of thread here. Alright, so I've left a little gap every 3 stitches. And I'll continue that way. I'll do the same that way, and we'll come back and fill in the gaps. Okay, so I've finished the satin stitch. Now I'm going to do my stripes in orange. So we're just going to go back through. Oh, one thing I should have mentioned when you were doing these satin stitches is just make sure that you're going to end up on a red satin stitch, that your stripe doesn't go on the end, so that way it just looks a little bit more encompassed and inside. So here I've actually gone over the line a little bit so that I'll have room to fit an orange in there and then still end on a red rather than an orange. So your wool may have moved around a bit. You might just have to recount and find your little gaps. Again, sort of got 3 red and then an orange. And you just sort of snuggle it in there so that it sits inside. See, it's sitting in there nice. Just snuggling in to give us nice stripe. Now I'm just going to travel through the back to do the other half. Sorry, I've just threaded my needle. So again, every 3rd, and then an orange. And I'm doing this is our Coreopsis orange thread. If you want to look at purchasing our threads for this. It's our Coreopsis orange. It's a lovely, bright, vibrant orange that is made with the Coreopsis flower. It's a little yellow flower that grows up and down the mountain all spring. It's just everywhere, on the roadside, every little crevice it can find, it grows. So I go out and I pick them every spring. For several months I go out every couple of weeks and pick some flowers, and there's always so many flowers. I don't feel guilty. There's enough for me to pick and enough to leave behind for the bees, so it's for them to get fed, so it's great. And then I use them fresh and also dry some to last me the year from my threads. Alright, so there we go. We've got a little orange stripe. Now I'm going to do the tail and the head, and again I'm going to do it in the same similar way, but I'm going to only do one layer of laid stitch underneath, one layer of padding, because when you think of a fish, its tail is thinner and its head is thinner than the body sort of comes out and round. So I mean, this isn't totally, 3D, it's not going to totally depict that, but it's nice to just sort of add those hints there that the eye can pick up on. I did think about just going flat and doing a flat one, but I don't want to also leave too much of a difference between this middle of the fish and the... You don't want to have a big step down, because a fish doesn't do that either. So now with the tail, I want my tail, my top stitch to go horizontally, like the way lines along a tail would normally do. So I'm going to do one padding of laid stitch in a vertical position, and then I will come back and show you how I'm going to do, because I am going to do the satin stitch on top, just slightly different, just a hint to help fit it into the shape. With the face, I want the face to go in the same, the satin stitch on top to go in the same way, as the body. So I'm actually going to do my lower laid padding area in horizontal. How about I say that again, because that may not have come out right. With my fish, I want my top satin layer to be in the same vertical stripe way, not in a stripe, but the same vertical line as the body. So my one layer of laid padding that I'm going to do in a horizontal way. Alright, so I'll do those and we'll come back and have a look at how we're going to just finish off this tail. Okay, so I finished the satin stitches on there. Now for the fins, I'm going to keep that fairly simple, because fins are obviously normally very, very thin and very translucent, so we don't want any big bulky stuff on there. So I am just going to do some lines basically. To just basically show a little bit of a pattern inside. Not keeping those very straight, I don't think. That's my inability to sew straight and for you to be able to see what I'm doing. That's okay. So just do a few lines. In your fin. And then I'm going to outline them. So I'm going to outline them in a split stitch. Can you use whatever you're happy with? You know, this is about you creating what you want. So, just going to do an outline in a split stitch. Oh, I forgot to mention I've obviously changed colour. This is a yellow that we make. It's made with the silver dollar eucalyptus leaves. We just solar dye with this, solar dye with those, to make this beautiful vibrant yellow that is very light fast and wash fast. It's one of my favourite colours, I must admit. Okay, so I'm going to, looks like we're only going to get one fish done this week. And I was hoping to get a bit more done. I know we'd like to try and get this all done fairly quickly, but at the same time I do want to make sure I just give you all the little hints that I use when I'm doing it. I could have just said, oh, just do a padded satin stitch and add a couple of stripes through it, but I really wanted to show for people who've never embroidered before exactly how you do that and give you any hints of the best ways of doing it. So it means we may end up going a little bit slower through this project than I initially thought. So anyway, I'm going to right now finish this fin. I'm going to finish these two fins, and then I will actually outline, I'm going to outline the whole fish in split stitch as well, and then I will come back and show you, and I'll also show you how to do the last little eye, and we'll be finished. One fish. Anyway, we'll get there. It's better we get it right than rush. Okay, so I've finished the fish. I've done the horizontal stripes, vertical, and then did some split stitch outline. Here I've done the lines in whatever way I felt the fin would sit. So they're slightly on an angle going this way. I'm not sure if you can see that. And in here they're going sort of that way. Then I've added a little fin here. You might remember that on the pattern you've got these little fins. So just follow that to find a placement where you want to put it. And I just made it up of 3 stripes with a little bit of an end, just to give him, I'm not 100% certain I like it, but anyway, it may come off yet. We'll see how I go. I've also outlined red and the orange areas in their respective colours. I didn't do a full split stitch across here. I don't think there's as big a definition between a fish's body and a tail, so I actually just added an extra satin stitch to sit over the top and just make that fit in quite nicely. So now we're going to try and give him a little bit of life. And that's an eye. So we're going to come up here. I'm actually going to try and come up in through a thread rather than at the edge of a thread, so that way it doesn't make a push to the side. You might notice as you're coming up, if you sort of go in between 2 threads, it'll leave a little gap up the top and up the bottom where it's pushed the thread aside. Whereas if you come up in the middle of a thread, and this is my dark lac purple, my ironed lac range, so it's nearly black. Right, so we're going to do a little French knot, I did a 2 wind there, in case you were wondering, but you know, doesn't have to be, you can do as whatever you want. Again, I want to keep it towards the top of the face, not the bottom. Pull in tight. It's a very big eye. There you go. Maybe I should have just done a 1. We shall see. It's getting quite labour intensive here at the back. These are quite labour intensive fish. A lot of thread intensive, sorry. They are to use the stitches that we've been practicing. He does have a big bulgy eye, doesn't he? Then now we've got a bit of white. And I'm just going to add towards the top not in the middle, just towards the top, a little minute white stitch. Oops, you can hardly see that, that was a little bit too small. I'll go over that again, just so that you can see it a bit better. Make it maybe a smidge bigger. We're just trying to give him, oh, if I can get through the knot, that little twinkle in his eye. To give him a bit of life. So you might need to fiddle with this a little bit. To get it to sit properly. That sort of did go in the middle, didn't it? There we go, just a little bit of light flashing in that eye to give him a little bit of life. A big bulging eye. There we go, so there's our first fish done. So we will come back next week and hopefully maybe get through a bit more than one. This is our most labour intensive one because it's being the bigger fish, I wanted to give a bit more of a 2D effect. And do the fully padded to layered fish, so it will stand out a little bit, because he's sort of going to be our fish that's at the forefront of our picture. And then as we move further back in the scene, we'll do more flatter embroidery. So this one was a little bit more labour intensive, and also the first one. So I just wanted to make sure, as I said earlier, that we added all those little hints in for you, just to help you not get too confused about what you're doing. Okay, so I will see you next week for another fish. I hope you enjoyed that. Bye.